Welcome to the block 2, unit 4 of international marketing, which deals with the concept of social culture, where we have come across with how culture is affecting the international marketing. So, in this regard, we'll have a broad discussion on the cultural aspect. Socio-cultural environment. So before we proceed further, I just wanted to tell you, even if you are an international company, but you have to understand the cultural aspect where you wanted to enter or where you wanted to do business. Even if the culture is similar in one country, but there is also subculture are there which differs. So marketer has to understand the culture aspect, because unless you understand the cultural aspect, you cannot have the right kind of offering to the market. So for that reason, the marketer understand the socio-cultural environment. Social cultural environment includes the the cultural aspect, the belief, the value system, the educational system, the institutions, all comes under the socio-cultural environment. So let us talk about what culture is all about. Culture is something that is, exactly the social norm shaping the human behavior. It starts inculcating at the time of birth, starts residing in the subconscious person's thought without his being aware of the learning process. So culture starts from the day of birth, and it also changes with the pass of time. So exactly you cannot say the culture has any concrete definition, but it's a dynamic in nature. We'll be discussing on dynamic in nature. It changes with the course of time, and also it includes your strong belief, your knowledge on certain things. You cannot change the people of the behavior because of they are so orthodox as far as their culture is concerned, their food patterns is concerned, their habit is concerned, their moral values are concerned. You cannot change there. So that is why that is a necessity to understand. Instead of pressurizing them to change their beliefs and morals, marketer tries to understand what is their morals, what is their customs, what is their capabilities, try to understand and inculcate the same thing in the offering so that it will be acceptable by the customers. So that is why the culture is somehow we talk about the culture is dynamic, culture is has similarities, subculture patterns. When you talk about the culture is dynamic, what does it mean? That means the culture changes with the time. That is, when you try to interact with people, it is your culture, your acceptance level, your exposure to certain things that changes. So that is why the culture is frequently changes. It's evolving. Culture is evolving one. It changes frequently with the pass of time. But in certain cases, we found the culture has some similarity. If you talk about the countries like us, India, when you talk about this cricket, when you talk about cricket is there, we have a similar kind of cultures. But when it is comes to different states, we do have subcultures. So one hand, the marketer has to understand the cultural dynamics, what are the changes that is happen because of your exposure to different things, that is your culture changes and you try to inculcate that culture in your food habits, in your behavior. That is why we have to understand the cultural aspect. Second one, also we have to think about the culture has some similarity. They have converge with one point. Like we speak Hindi, that is we converse because national language is Hindi. We converse that is on a particular language. But also when you go to south, when you go to north, the pattern of behavior changes from people to people. So that is also culture has some convergence or similarity. Also culture has some dynamics. And also that is a subcultural pattern in the sense that is if you talk about the North people, they prefer to go for idli, dosa, and when you talk about North people, they prefer different things. So because even if you are belong to one culture, but when you talk about the different regions, that differs. So that is why the marketer has to understand the cultural aspects. So that is why one of the activity we have, how does the study of culture influence the marketing programs? We discuss on that part, because see, if you are talking about if you wanted to enter a one particular country, that country believes on certain things, then you have to understand the cultural patterns, cultural beliefs. Then exactly you can introduce your product as per the requirement of the people. So that is why the marketing manager has to understand the dynamics, the cultural similarity and subculture pattern when they enter to a particular country. This is you talk about that is why we have to understand the cultural aspect of the cultural environment or cultural aspect before you enter to a particular country. Next, we talk about the socio-cultural environment. What is socio-cultural environment? Socio-cultural environment basically includes the societal and attitudes and belief and attitude, behavior and beliefs. The change in attitude, beliefs and behavior, that is analyzing that we talk about the socio-cultural environment. That is why we have to understand what are the terms include in the cultural aspect. The third term we include is what is that, the material culture. What is material culture? So material culture is all about technology and economics. When you talk about technology and economics, we have to understand how technology is changing our behavior. If you talk about one country, there is the adoption of technology is limited. But if you talk about another country, their adoption is very fast. If you talk about the developed world, their adoption of technology, they spend research and development, they bring the new product to the market. That is why, as far as their technology is concerned, their adoption is very fast, quick adoptions. Then we talk about the economics. On the basis of the economics, we talk about the resources. How do you utilize the resources? So we take decisions on what? Now we take a joint decision making capacity where we consider that is refrigerator, washing machine are the luxury items because of items. But whereas the developed countries, they consider refrigerator, washing machine are the necessity. Why? Because of the disparities in economics. Disparities in economics. That is why the culture, when you try to understand the material aspect of the culture, we have to understand the technological aspect and the economic aspect. Second, we talk about the social organizations, the education, the political structures. How do they decide about our cultures? If you talk about the social organizations, what you are, that is defined by the schooling, the family structures, and the environment from where you came from. So that decides your social organization, whether people accept certain behaviors or they do not accept certain behaviors. Taking cigarettes in the public places is not acceptable by the society like us. So that is because that has been inculcated with us from the day of our birth. So that is the social organization. To understand what is the social organization which is influencing our cultures. Second one is we talk about the education and the education part. People are literate and illiterate. If they're literate, they are more awareness, the awareness level of certain things. They have a high level of awareness on certain things because they are educated. That is why education system decide about your culture. Third one is political structures. What about political structure? The political sector shapes the pattern of living, interpersonal relationship of the people in the society. That is, the political structure decides the pattern of behavior and interaction with the society. When you talk about the man and universe belief systems, what about that? Even if that is exactly we are staying in a one country or any country, we have a certain religion we belong to. That religion is itself decides our pattern of behavior. If you belong to a particular religion, the food habits, the taste and preference, that is different from the other religions. So that is why the marketer has to understand the beliefs or the religion aspect when you are talking about. If you are like McDonald, initially years McDonald, what they did, being a multinational company, they introduced some products, some foods in the Indian market which included beef. So that is why there is a failure of McDonald in the Indian market in the initial phase. So later on, when they realize that is Indian people prefer to have a veg thali. When they introduce veg thali in the market, what happened? They become successful. So this is what we talk about the unique man and universal belief. That is exactly, you have to understand that to have a better understanding of the culture. The next one we talk about the aesthetic sense. What is aesthetics? Aesthetics exactly we talk about the inner urge for creativity, colors and expression and norms. So whether you are just you're talking about the Indians, what about Indians? Indians believe on we believe on celebrations, festives. So that is we are believe on the music, drama and the dance. So that is because we have a inner urge for creativity and colors. So that is also forming our cultural aspect. Even if also we are staying in one country, but the aesthetic sense of different people, there is a difference lies in between different people. That is also what we have to understand. Then last not the least is we talk about the language part. What about the language? That is the language we speak. That we are not speak the same language, and always we prefer to that the marketer has to speak our language. If you are talking about that, if our culture is namaste, and if the marketer is greeting us or greets us with namaste, then exactly we understand that language. Marketer if start talking about shake hands, we do not understand that language because there is a difference lies as far as language is concerned. So basic thing is exactly we try to understand what is culture. Culture is all about the social norms, the least we do have. Also culture is something is it is that is dynamic in nature. Also culture has some similarities, its culture has subcultures. Then when you talk about what are the elements of social cultural environment, because you try to understand the social cultural environment, because this helps us to know, to understand the patterns and advancement in societal attitudes and behavior and beliefs. To facilitate that study of culture, we taught the anthropologist evolved a cultural scheme that includes what the various elements of the culture. What are the elements? The elements of the culture are the material culture, which includes technology and economics. We have to understand the technological aspect, adoption of technology. We have to understand the economics aspect. Because our we purchase frequently, but they purchase differently. We consider refrigerator and washing machine as our necessity, a luxury item, but developed countries they consider it is a necessity item for them because of the economic disparities. As far as research technology is concerned, they spend more money on research and development. We spend less money on research and development. Then also we talk about the social organization we belong to. Where we came from. Are we from a family where we take decisions, we are conservative, we take decision unitedly? That decides our cultural pattern. Second, we talk about the educational background, whether you are aware about the particular things or you do not aware about the particular things. That decides our cultural patterns. And last not the least is the political structure, which includes that is our interaction with other people in the society. Then also we talked about the man and universe, where we talk about that is even if you are have staying together, but we do have different religions. Religions also influence our behavior. That is why we have to think about the religion aspect. Then aesthetic aspect, which includes the arts and folklore, music, drama and the dance, that is also influencing our behavior. And last not the least is the language part. You have to, when you enter to the particular country, you have to know their language, you have to speak their language. Because why? Because when you are talking about, when you are going for the promotions or you are communicating, you are going for the advertisement, if your message is with the language of the particular country, then your message is clearly reached or understood by the people residing in that particular country. That is why the marketer has to understand these aspects from his point of view so that the marketing approach or marketing activity can be done as per the requirement of the culture. Let us talk about the next one. Next one, we talk about the cultural analysis. What is the cultural analysis? Cultural analysis is the study and categorization non-economic parameters. The major challenge for the manager is to overcome the myopia. What is myopia? Myopia people used to see there is a short-term view of the people. People see it is not a our kind of things, our kind of things. That is why that influence their behavior. So that is why the challenge in front of the marketer is marketing that is the myopia. That is the marketing. The myopia has to be removed by the marketer. So that is why one of the James Lee calls itself as self-reference criteria, SRC, self-reference criteria. So that is through which we can able to understand the culture, we can analyze or understand the cultural aspect. Suppose let us take the example of Disney. Disney management definitely ignored many basic questions they should ask themselves before they launching their project in the France, because French visitors in particular were embarrassed if they do not drink while they go for a meal. So if you are a Disney, if you are a Disney, you are projecting or targeting the French people, then you have to include drinks when you are offering. They are going for the launch. If you do not include drink when they are going for the launch, then exactly you are there may be a embarrassment for the people who are coming to your destinations. That is why the challenge in front of the marketer is to you have to understand, you have to analyze what are the non-economic parameters that influence the behavior of the customers. So a major challenge for the manager is to overcome the myopia. It takes time to develop an open attitude and cultural sensitivity, which enables manager to look carefully the foreign markets, point out the customer needs there instead of transferring the domestic needs. Exactly what we try to say here, the manager, the international marketing manager should not replicate the same model which is prevailing in one country to the other countries. Instead of that, since culture is one of the sensitive aspect, the manager has to transfer, has to understand the culture prevailing in that particular country. That is why there is a paramount importance to understand the cultural aspects. What are the things that is we talk about? What are the things that comes under the that is includes your the Lee 1996 can be used determining the problem or goal in the terms of home country culture, habits and norms. You have to understand the home culture, home country culture, habits and norms. Determining the same problem or goals in terms of host country culture, habits and norms. Isolating SR's influence on the problems, how it complicates the issue, redefining the problem. That is exactly you have to understand the home country culture, habits and norms. Then also you have to what now you have to also that is understand how it influence on the how it influences, and then you have to redefine the problems, then exactly your according to the specific foreign countries in situations, then your that is your strategy, your marketing programs or marketing activity can be fruitful. So what are the things the cultural indicators may then be subdivided into four headings? What are they? We talk about de facto indicators, traditional indicator, legal indicator, marketing mix indicators. What is de facto indicators? So de facto indicators are talking about the climate, the terrain, the basic infrastructure facilities. What about Indian scenario? If you talk about the Indian scenario, then exactly there is a temperature used to remain high. Summer dominates most of the seasons. So that is why the marketer, when they bring any product to the marketer, they have to think about what about the climatic conditions. So what about the climate condition, what about the terrains, what about the basic infrastructure facilities. So basic infrastructure facilities, if you talk about the Indian roads, the Indian roads, that is where there is a say that is the Japanese know the Indian roads better. Because why? Because they know infrastructure facilities. So that is the impact of these indicators on the product construction and marketing is a major facilities available. Whether these are the things, whether it is available or not, the marketer has to understand these aspects. So when you are example, I have cited you an example, the marketing motor vehicles globally, the farms should keep the climatic conditions, terrain conditions and infrastructure conditions in mind, because the same kind of tire or in same kind of body of the car is not applicable every part of the globe. So that is why you have to understand the climate pattern, the terrain pattern, the basic infrastructure patterns when you are trying to deliver a product to the other countries or foreign markets. You have to understand the de facto indicators. I think I've cleared one thing. Second one is traditional include indicators. What are the traditional indicators? These includes the systems, attitude, and value system that exist within the market. What is that? Let us talk about one. So we believe in a system where we take decisions jointly. We do have positive attitude on certain things. We do have positive attitudes on certain things. We do have negative attitude for alcohols. We have negative attitude for cigarettes. We do have a negative attitude or positive attitude for certain things, and the value system which exists in the particular within the market. When a marketer seeks knowledge about these indicators, she begins by taking into account the historical demand for goods, the attitude of the consumers. What about the attitude of the consumers? The attitude of the consumer for the alcoholic product is negative. So that is already they are inculcated with the customers from the day one. So that is why you cannot promote alcohol that is as per your wish. So that is why the certain things you have to understand the historic demand of certain things. What is the then we have to understand the value system that is prevailing. Suppose you are talking about, let me just cite one example here. Suppose you are taking a that is educational loan for your study. So here we do have a system, value system. We believe that is, if you are not able to repay the loan, somebody is there is to repay your loan, because we do have believe in a value system. That is why we are less affected by the global crisis because of our value systems. So we have to understand, marketer has to understand what kind of value system we do have, what is the linkage in other market system manufacturing countries. That is the traditional indicators. Then we are talking about the legal indicators. Wherever you go, you have to understand the law of the land. That is, you have to understand the law of the land, because law of the land, that is, unless you understand, you cannot sustain there. Because example I have cited is exactly the pharmaceutical product banned these countries is often marketed in third world countries, because the third world cannot afford to make such laws. So sometimes exactly what happens, the all related to the manufacturing product safety and environmental laws, that is you have to take care if you wanted to do business in the other countries, the legal aspect, legal indicators. Then we are talking about the marketing mix indicators. What is marketing mix indicators? The marketing mix includes product, price, place and promotions. So that is, we talk about the one example we talk about here, the use of aspirational advertising and the influence of this law can create a problems. Here I am talking about another things, pestle power. What is pestle power? Pestle power is exactly the power lies with the kids. In many countries, they have banned over the pestle power. Being a marketer, you cannot influence the kids. That is, you cannot influence the kids, that is through the advertisement. So that exactly you have to understand, whatever your product, whatever price, whatever distribution you are going for, the implication of the marketing are very clear. When a person enters a new environment, the laws in United States regarding the advertising requires advertiser be able to back up the claim. If you claim something, then you have to back up the claim. Some countries have banned over the pestle power, so you cannot directly go for the pestle power. If you are operating in a one country like in a country like India, 50%, 80% of your cigarette space You have to promote cigarette smoking is injurious to health. So that exactly you have to understand the marketing mix indicators. The product, whatever you are designing, that has to come with the purview of the customers. That is exactly the price, whatever you are putting, that you have to have the right kind of price. Then you have to place, that is exactly you can have the right kind of distribution patterns. And last is the promotions. You have to keep the local language, you have to use the local language, local people, local celebrities when you are promoting your brand or your product in the other countries. ठीक है, that is exactly we talk about the that is the four aspect when you are talking about the cultural analysis. The cultural analysis basically what exactly the cultural analysis exactly involves the four things, four headings. One is de facto. De facto is all about understanding the climate, terrain, and the basic infrastructure facilities. The marketer has to understand whether the same climate is suitable for this kind of products or not. The terrains, that is example I have given here, exactly the vehicle manufacturing company has to understand the climatic conditions, terrain condition in the particular country. Then we talk about the traditional indicators. What are the traditional indicators? The value system that is prevailing, the attitude systems, value system in prevailing in a particular country. We have to understand that aspect also. Then we are talking about the third one. You talk about the legal indicators. Wherever you go, wherever country you wanted to enter, I have to understand the law of the particular country, because you have to understand the law of the particular country. That is why some pharmaceutical companies, they are not entered to a particular country because of the law of the land. Then we talk about the marketing mix indicators. The marketing mix indicators includes product price, place, and promotions, which you have to understand and you have to design the requirement, the product price, place, and promotion as per the requirement of the particular country you wanted to enter. Then we are talking about what about the orientation of cultures. What about the orientation of the culture? The orientation of the culture is all about the time. Time is, we talk about that there is a difference lies as far as importance of time is concerned. That USA, that is they, if you are late by 10 minutes or 10 20 minutes, your job is gone, because they believe on they are time bound. If you have something has given to you, then you have to deliver on time. But Japanese, they have a different concept altogether. So time is all about, that is how people see the time from varies from culture to culture. Time is one of the fundamental bases on which culture rests, around which the activities revolve. There is a difference in how culture handled time. In earlier times, time was measured in terms of seasons, darkness, and daylight. The space, we talk about the space. The space is, that is, when you talk about the space in west, that is west, men avoid excess touching, and Asian and Latin America people tend to get too physically close. So that is why there is a difference as far as your closeness is concerned to as your that is as far as your gender is concerned, you have to maintain a certain space with the others. So that exactly defined. So as a marketer, you have to understand how time is important, how space is important for a particular particular country. So as per the once you understand that, then exactly you can exactly design your marketing offering as per the time and space. So what about the friendships? What about friendship? The meaning of friendship, the obligation involved in it vary from culture to friendship is vary from culture to culture. In USA, the concept of friendship is fragile. They don't have any concept like friendship. It is hard to say that which friendship gives way to the best business opportunities. Friendship do not form quickly in Eastern countries. They take time. Eastern countries they take time, but that friendship lasts for a long period. That do not complete in that do not last long period involves real obligations. That is why see one of the campaign from campaign from Airtel, which talks about that is India, that is that is friendship matters, because they came with a theme friendship matters, because they know that is when we are together we wanted to bring a we wanted to have a better friendship. But when you're talking about the China, Chinese place a high value on the relationship they form with the partners. They also keep relationship, they give more importance on the long-term relationship with the partners. That is why you have to understand the friendship is one of the aspect of cultural orientations. Then exactly we talk about the next one, we talk about the status. Status used in different ways in different cultures has different meanings. What some does or is can be the fundamental. There is a big difference between how society respects or focus on someone's status. In the USA, Germany and Finland, people are viewed by how successful they are in their job, and they believe on certain things, they believe on the materialistic world. That is, if you have so many things, exactly you have a status. But in other countries, what happens? That is materialistic. They believe on the materialistic, projecting socio-economic status through material possessions. But Middle East people judged by not material possessions but by their family connections and friendship. These exactly differ from culture to culture. This is exactly the first one is we talk about the first one we talk about time. Time varies from how people perceive time. Time is important or not. I cited example of exactly the USA. How do they perceive time? If you are late by some time, some minutes, you are gone out of job. They time bound. Talk about that is other countries. They there is a difference lies as far as time handle is concerned. Then when you talk about the space, that is exactly we talk about what now that is as far as gender is concerned, you have to maintain a certain distance or space from your counterpart. When it is what now, when it is other countries like countries like what like friendship is a space. We talk about the space. What do we adopt? That is west man avoid excess touching. Asian and Latin American people tend to get too close. And next we have talked about the friendship is different from different countries. When you talk about the USA, that is friendship is fragile, but when you talk about Chinese, they have a high importance, high value for friendship, even if they take time, but they build a long-term friendship with others. So then we talk about the status. Status is all about the materialistic possessions, projecting socio-economic states through material possessions. Middle East people judged by not by material possession, but USA, Germany and Finland people view how successful they are in their jobs, but what an individual has done. So that is also the orientation of status for different countries that varies. Then we talk about the business agreement. The business agreement, because we are dealing with a international business. When you are going for the business agreement, we have to understand the agreement means in different cultures. So when you talk about the business agreement in different cultures, so that is some countries they consider agreement is just a paper, nothing else. They do not take it seriously. But in certain countries they that is exactly even if the verbal commitment they say it is more than the written agreement. So that differs from culture to culture. So it is actually equally important to know the guiding principle of an attitude towards negotiating business agreements in different countries. The rules that are spelled out technically as law or regulations, moral practices that are mutually agreed on and taught to the young as a set of principles, informal customs to which everyone conforms without being able to state the exact rules. That all comes under the business agreement. That is, business agreement vary from country to country. American consider negotiating process to have a ended when agreement is signed. But Arab consider that is verbal word bonding as any written agreement, more than any written agreement. That varies from that is country to country. So that is exactly we talk about that you have to understand the business agreement, how the countries they perceive the business agreement. So some countries, if there is they give a what to you, they try to keep the commitment with you. Some countries, they believe unless we have a written agreement, that is then we can go for the business. Then we are going for the next one is you going for the cross cultural analysis. When you talk about the cross cultural analysis, so we have to understand because we are operating, our establishment is different and we are going to operate in different countries where there is a possibility of cross cultural analysis. So once you understand the cross-cultural analysis, what will happen? It makes your works more smooth, more easier. So that is why to understand how this concept may be used by the firms in their attempt to analyze consumer behavior. The cross-cultural analysis is exactly helpful. Why? Because it is helpful to understand the consumer behavior. That is why we are trying to go for the cultural analysis. When you talk about the cultural analysis, we talk about individualism. What is individualism? So we talk about the interaction between a person and other people in the society, referred as the individualism. Done? So that is exactly how you interact with the other member of the people in the society. That is known as the individualism. That is exactly we talk about. So once you analyze the other culture, you can able to understand whether they coexist, or such as nuclear family, extended family, tribes, has a wide range of value implications. So that is once you understand the cross culture, you can able to understand who takes the decisions. That is if the individual takes the decision, you have to influence the individuals. If the family takes the decision, then you have to influence the families. So that is why we have a clear understanding of different culture when you are going for the cross cultural analysis. So that is the first one. The marketer has to understand who takes the decision. Accordingly, they will design, they will develop their marketing programs, their marketing offerings for the people residing in that particular country, so that it will become more effective, more it is more effective one. Then we have to understand the power distance country. Power distance. What is power distance? The power distance deals with how societies handle disparities among people. People have different physical mental abilities which some civilization allow to develop into disparities in money and power. Some societies on the other hand downplay such inequalities. So here I just wanted to tell let me say that India is a power distance country. If you are maintaining distance from others, then people respect you. You will become close to the people do not respect you. The marketer here has to understand that is if you are promoting premium brand, then you have to talk about that is only meant for a particular kind of people. That is not meant for everybody. So that is we talk about that is how things are different from person to person in the society. That shows the power distance. Power distance exactly you have to include when you are talking about a that is in case of international marketing. Uncertainty abundance. How uncertainty abundance describe how a society respond to future uncertainties. We do not believe on future uncertainties. That is why we have a what we have 30% people are insured, but rest 70% people are not insured because we give least importance to the uncertainty. But whereas other countries they give more importance to uncertainty. So exactly that you have to because people do not have the knowledge about the uncertainty, what can be the future uncertainties. For that reason, the companies, even if you are AIG or you are ICP, you are Prudential being international company, you have to educate people what is the importance of insurance, what is the importance of future. If you do not have the savings or insurance for the future, then there is a possibility of problem for your family members. So that is why they came with it. That is, you talk about the difference lies as far as the people is concerned. The uncertainty avoidance thing is there. Then we talk about the masculinity. Whether there is a difference lies between genders, whether the society gives more respect to the male or female. We are living in a society which is mostly dominated by male. Anything can be the decision taken by the male. So if you are giving more priority to male in your campaign, in your advertisement or in marketing, then exactly the decision can be influenced. So that is why the how much society conforms to the prevalent gender and male stereotypes, making money and pursuing observable acquirement values that men place a strong emphasis on. So who emphasizes that is exactly the main influence the decision of others, being the head of the family, being the head, he makes he influence decision of others. So that is why the gender who takes the decision. If you talk about the Arabian countries, who takes the decisions? Mostly female take the decisions, and female have to follow that decisions. So that is why the marketer has to the change know the cultural aspect as far as masculinity is concerned. Then Confucian dynamism. What is Confucian dynamism? Confucian dynamism is all about that is culture based on how universalities or particulars are they are. Culture that subscribe to universalism hold that what is right, true can be identified, defined, applied universally. That exactly special relationship situations are more essential elements in defining what is right and good than abstract norms. Correct? That is exactly. So when you are talking about the cultural analysis, we have to understand the individualism aspects, who influence your behavior, individual influence behavior, the family you belong to, they change your behavior, who or you tribe you belong to, that change your behavior. That exactly we have to understand that aspect, because we, as per the requirement, we will design our marketing programs. Then exactly we have to understand the power distance. Power distance is exactly what, that is how people live in a society. They differ from each other as far as money is concerned, power is concerned. If people have money and power, they wanted to differentiate themselves from the others. That is why power distance, you have to understand the power distance concept. Then we are talking about the uncertainty avoidance. People have a uncertainty avoidance nature in certain countries. In certain countries, they do not avoid the uncertainties. So that is why the penetration of insurance in certain developed countries is more as compared to developing countries, because they know insurance is necessary and we have to go for the insurance. But whereas countries like us who do not consider insurance as a necessity, that is why we give less importance to the insurance. So masculinity is all about talking about both the gender, male and female, who takes the decisions, who is influenced the decisions, whether the top of the family, the parent, the father is takes the decisions or the mother is taking the decisions. That is exactly comes under the masculinity. Then we are talking about the Confucian dynamism, where rates culture based on how universalistic or populistic they are. Culture surprise, that is even if there is a culture, but still there is a, we on special condition, special relation, the culture changes. That we talk about the cross cultural analysis. Then next we talk about the cultural influence in the business negotiations. What is that? We talk about the business negotiations. We talk about non-task discussions. The process of building rapport with among members of the negotiation teams is referred as non-task discussions. The that is we talk about here we talk about what, like non-tax discussion, that is building rapport with others member and negotiations, that is required if you wanted to enter that particular country. Some countries they only believe on only the task, no relationship, that is tax related exchange of information sharing that establish the need expected participants is reported. Tax related exchange of information. Majority of smaller Japanese business are well over 90% of all large ones follow a decision making process known as ringi. So that is why they believe on the task which you are here. That is the main, that is the main point of business negotiations. Then we talk about the persuasions. The persuasion for US executive, the persuading phase, they don't believe on the persuasions. They believe on what, and they believe on what, and that is exactly they believe on the, that is what is there. And if it is on writing or it is on written, they believe on that. But Japanese negotiator who have taken up the effort to understand others' expectations. So this is change in the, that is when you are going for the business, the cultural influence on the business negotiations. If you are dealing with business partners of Japanese, first of all you have to understand their expectations. Then you can do business. But American, they believe on exactly what they believe, that is persuasion is all about wasting time. So that is why what can be done, that exactly clear tell with the exactly what is the commitment you can have. Then concessions and agreements. Japanese dislike formal Western style contracts, which is continuation of the desire of the developing close personal relationship. It is much preferable to have a vague statement that express the parties' mutual collaboration trust during the negotiation process. They don't believe on that. That you talk about the concept and agreements. Before we proceed further, then we talk about the certain things I just wanted to highlight here. Exactly, the impact of the impact of cultural analysis is exactly what are the impact of cultural analysis. The impact is socio-cultural aspect are constantly evolving. That is why it is not remains constant, it is evolving one. That is why you have to understand the socio-cultural aspect are constantly evolving. Second one is companies must discover the more effective ways to adopt socio-cultural changes to stay relevant. If you are able to understand the socio-cultural aspect, then what happens? To remain relevant, you have to bring changes with your offerings. That is why there is a requirement to understand the socio-cultural environment. Because of why? Because if you understand, then exactly your process, your what is your approach for the market will be better. That is why the cross-cultural analysis help us to understand the impact of socio-cultural aspect, and it is evolving one, and it helps to understand the different aspects. Then we talk about the non-task discussions, tax-related exchange of informations, persuasions. What about persuasions? Persuasion is nothing but exactly what you talk about. How to, if you are going for a negotiation or business agreement, you have to understand what about persuasions. Some people they do not believe on persuasions. If you approach them and again, they say they feel this is a basically wastage of time. So that is why they don't believe on the persuasion. But some people they believe on the persuasions. If you are meeting again and again, and you are trying to understand others, and and they understand the expectation of others, then it is viewed as exactly it's the important aspect for them. So this differs from country to country. So next one is you talk about the concessions and agreement. We are talking about the concession agreements. Japanese dislike formal Western style contracts, which is continuation of the desire for developing close personal relationship. It is most preferable to have a vague statement that express parties' mutual collaborations. So this is exactly how culture will influence the business negotiations. Then we talk about the cross-cultural relations. What is the cross-cultural relationship? Cross-cultural relationship is about that is you have to have a that is approach to have to understand the cross-cultural aspects. How can you understand? If you if you wanted to adopt, if it is adaptable, then exactly there will be no problem at all. You have to adopt. People who do not seem to feel the need to adjust may be viewed as indolent in meeting with international business partners. If you are not able to adopt yourself with the other cultures, you are not able to consider as effective. So that is why you have to consider the other aspect. You have to adopt yourself with the changing environment, then exact changing culture, then exactly you can able to sustain the region. Some use interpreters. Interpreters are that what exactly that is influenced by the interpreters. They might translate from one language to other language more effectively than the other way around. It is important to take into account the loyalty of the interpreters. There is interpreter. See what exactly he converts your language that is with the other language. That becomes more familiar when you are going for the international cultural relationship. Then we talk about the certain blocks are there. What are the cultural blocks are there? The not everything will translate accurately. It is impossible to translate the exact meaning of every aspect of interpretation. Some translations attempt to be unsuccessful due to cultural factors. That is exactly you have to understand that aspect. The stereotype, sometimes the negative stereotypes should be avoided since it might lead to more disagreement and difficulty during negotiations. And last not the least is exactly talk about the intercultural preparations. So intercultural preparation to increase the effectiveness of international business, prior preparation, intercultural awareness is necessary. First point we understood that is adoption is required. If you wanted to build a cross-cultural relationship, you are able to adopt with the particular country, particular environment. Then exactly you can develop a cross-cultural relationship. If you have a interpreter who can interpret the language in their language, or that can be the best way to build a relationship with the cross-cultural relationship. Cultural, even if you have interpreter everything, but still there is a cultural blocks is there which prevents people to go ahead with the decisions. If you are going for the negative stereotyping should be avoided, since it might lead to more disagreement difficult during the negotiations. Then also last not you also require most intercultural preparations. If you have a intercultural preparations, then exactly what happens, you may go first, you can proceed, you can do your business better. So let us discuss one by one again from the beginning. We have discussed what exactly. In the beginning, we discussed about the concept of culture, where basically culture is a evolving one. I talked about it never remains constant. It is evolving one. It changes. The marketer, the international marketer, has to understand the cultural aspect. Some people are orthodox in their nature. They don't want to change their cultures. So the marketer try its level best to change them, but mean also they're not able to get success on that. So that is why the cultural aspect, you have to understand the cultural aspect is what? It is culture is dynamic. It is not remains same. It evolves. It changes frequently. Cultural similarity, there is a similarity of the culture between people. We talk about, when I said an example of cricket. When it comes to cricket, we have a what we have a we being there is a difference in culture, but we converge towards the similar cultures. The subcultural pattern, but even if you do enter one country, but you will come across with different subcultures. The subcultures are different there. So the marketer has to understand the cultural dynamics, cultural similarities, and subcultural patterns. Then exactly you can able to bring a best of your approach to remains relevant in the marketplace. Then you talk about the elements of socio-cultural environment. The elements of socio-cultural environment, it includes technological adoptions, the economic of the people, what exactly the people are, they're conservative, they believe in the consumption patterns. So that decide there, if the culture is a conservative one, they will not spend huge amount of money on certain things. If the if the culture is a consumption based economy, they believe in the consumptions and the rate of technology that is adopting by people, that is you have to take into consideration. Then we have we talked about the social organization that shapes our culture. What are the social organizations? The social organization, that is exactly where you have done your study, where you have schooling, and you have different phase of family structures you come across. That decides your social organizations, your education pattern, and your political structures. Then we have talked about the man and the universal citizen. Even if that is you are residing in one place, or but still you bring, that is the marketer has to understand the religion you belong to. The religion, your attitude, your behavior towards certain things changes because you belong to certain religions. So that is why the marketer has to understand the religion aspect. Then we talk about the aesthetics aspects and the language aspect. The marketer has to understand that we have discussed. Then cultural analysis, you have to understand the cultural analysis. Unless you understand the cultural analysis, that is exactly it is unless you have an open attitude, open culture, then exactly, because culture is one of the sensitive issue. If you do not understand it effectively, it will have a severe impact on your decisions. So that is why example I have cited you, that is how Disney has changed its approach when they are targeting the French, because they have to include the drink when they are offering meal to the French people, because they take together. They don't take only meal or only lunch or thing. They take together. That is, you have to allow them to take both the things. You do not allow, then there is a problem of cultural issues. So then we talk about the Lee can be used, that is determine the problems. You talk about you identify the problem, then redefine your problems, then exactly possible, there is a possibility of change. Then cultural analysis includes de facto indicators. What are de facto indicators? The de facto indicators include, that is what are the de facto, include the climate, terrain. You have to understand the climate, terrain, and the basic infrastructure facilities that is available in a particular country. Even if you are a car company, you do not understand the climatic conditions, the kind of car body that require in a particular climate. Like, because if you are developing a AC or something else, you have to think about our AC That is most of the time we use AC because there is there is a high temperature in our nation. So that is another one part. Second one is traditional indicators. What are the traditional indicators? People marketers seeks knowledge about the indicators by taking into account the historic demand for goods, the attitude of the consumers, and the mechanics of the market, such as credit facility. Credit facility, whether people are going for the credit, if that is exactly, if anything offered to the Indians on a credit facility, they're ready to go for that. If you ask for them pay immediately, they don't go. But if you talk about the credit facility, they definitely go for that. Next one is legal indicator. You have to understand the law of the land. That is, if you do not understand the law of the land, that is exactly you may be facing some problems, issues in the near future. Then we have talked about the marketing mix indicator, because if your marketing mix indicator, the product price, place, and promotion has to be designed taking into consideration the cultural aspect. The product, if you are offering a product which includes beef, that is not acceptable by the Indian. You have to offer something which is veg or something is Indianized products, then it will be acceptable to people. Price has to be affordable. The communication you are talking about, that is you have to use the local culture, local language, so that it will effectively reach to the people. The orientation culture, how you see time, space, that is impacting our behaviors. Time is crucial for some countries, time is not crucial for some countries. Space, we are taking the space, whether we are maintaining distance from the counterpart or we are not maintaining distance, that is the another one. Then we talk about the friendship and status. That is, friendship and status also matters, because you have to understand the friendship and status, that is also decided by the cultures. Then we talk about the agreement. Some countries, business agreements, some countries they believe on written documents, written agreements. Some countries they believe on what? The verbal like commitments. So that is the pattern of agreement, business agreement varies from country to country, and that is also decided by the culture where they reside. The cross-cultural analysis, we talk about the individualism, that is interaction between the other persons and other persons in the society, the individualisms. The power distance, already we have talked about how people are maintaining distance from one place to another, one person to another person, that is power distance. That is exactly, and uncertainty avoidance, masculinity, Confucian dynamism, that is exactly, we have discussed all these points in our discussions. Then we have talked about the central cultural influence on business negotiations. Non-task discussions, if you are taking too much time, that is you are building a rapport, that matters. That if you are not taking, that is also before your negotiations. That exactly the non-task discussions. Tax related exchange of information. The information majority of smaller Japanese business, well over 90% of the largest decision making processes are thinking. So that is, we talk about the tax related exchange of informations. Then persuasion, some countries they don't feel persuasion is a better way of go for negotiations. If you have the everything is you are describe everything effectively, then no need for persuasion. But some countries they believe persuasion is required. If you are persuading, then there is a possibility of going for the negotiation. Then concessions and agreements, Japanese dislike formal Western type contracts, but which is the continuations. That is exactly we have discussed. And last, finally, we have discussed about cross cultural relations. If you wanted to build a cross cultural relationship, you have to adopt their cultures. You have to take an interpreter who can interpret your language. They can better interpret your language and can communicate, can be familiar with the decisions. Then even if they have all interpreters are there, but still there is a cultural block. You have to face the blocks. Then if we are talking about some negative stereotyping, that is also avoided, because it might be let get to more disagreements and intercultural preparations. If you wanted to establish a cross-cultural relationship, you have to go for the intercultural preparations, so that the relationship will build for a long term. So finally, we can conclude here that is the marketing, the international marketer has to understand the socio-cultural aspect, because not only it gives benefit in terms of product design or place or promotions, but also it makes easier for the marketer to reach or to able to give a feel sense to the customer that we are your company, we are a part of your country, we have the same culture, same things we are following, what exactly we are following, We are your kind of things. We are providing your kind of things. That is why you have to understand the socio-cultural relations. Hope that is the last discussion with from the last 1 hour discussion on socio-cultural aspects, marketer how to understand this as I have clarified all the things. So that is what we talk about today. Thank you all.